ladies and gentlemen, Dave here once again for another car review, and today we're in a 1987 Mark III Supra. It is pretty badass because I haven't done a Mark III Supra yet, and one other thing about it is it has the original 7M in it. It was a naturally aspirated Mark III Supra, but the original owner basically redid the entire car. But the thing about it too is that there's a turbo slapped on it. Makes 7 PSI, makes right around say 300-ish to the wheels, and it's very linear power, and it's not scary, and it works perfectly. Plus the transmission and everything in harmony can take the power. Everything's backed up. W58 transmission, and with the 7M connected to it, can't really go wrong. But a lot of people always wondered, why weren't these in America like 1GZ'd from the factory? I actually thought they were, believe it or not, but they weren't. And in Japan they were, but in America they weren't. And I think a big part of that was because, you know, the import scene was still getting bigger in America, so they probably were a little questionable about putting the 1J in it so soon when the Mark IV was coming so soon. But the Mark III Supra is kind of, I wouldn't say an ugly duckling of the bunch. I think it looks great. I actually used to get it confused with the FCRX7 when I was a kid, because the body lines has that hatch in the back, kind of like a 240 or something along those lines. But the FC and this have pretty close body lines. It's the era of flip-up headlights on everything. With the Mark III, they're really good platforms, but people always overlook them because they want the Mark IV. But who could blame them? The Mark IV has that legacy of Fast and Furious and Paul Walker, and it looks awesome and it looks timeless. This definitely looks of its time, but I think it's still pretty charming about it. Paint on this is really good quality. This black looks awesome. The interior is charcoal, and most of it is really well put together. Pretty much no rattles or anything like that. And I'm honestly surprised. I've been doing a lot of these Japanese cars from, you know, the late 80s, early 90s recently, and I've noticed that their interiors hold up, and it's really impressive. Don't get me wrong, there's like some plastics here or there, but that's just part of the time. Speedometer doesn't work, but a lot of that has to do with the wiring harness. Occasionally the wiring harness kind of cuts in and out, and the motor itself is basically perfect. The whole thing is rebuilt, has like 10K miles on it. But other than that, it's all wiring issues. It also has HKS Hypermax coilovers on it, which, don't you love that they use an I? They're just trying to be so edgy. Along with that, it has an HKS exhaust in the rear. But the rest of it is just a turbo back all the way to that HKS. One of the HKS coilovers, however, has a bend in it. So in the rear, the car wants to start swaying this way. So if I let go just slightly, it starts to go the other way. It kind of feels like the car's out of alignment. That's really much all it is. But if you're holding it straight ahead, you barely even feel it. The car still handles great. Especially with the Momo steering wheel, the thing looks awesome. It was funny, the owner Derek was saying, yeah, people don't know that they still make parts for this car, but people have a really big cult following of the Mark III Supra. It's just kind of hidden somewhere in the depths of the car scene. When people get a Mark III, they keep them forever. The owner of this car now has owned the car basically 5 years. Occasionally thought about selling it because of the reliability issues of the 7M, but it's still a part of him, and he's kept the car. So one thing about the gearbox in this is the shifter is so intense. Like, it's so notchy that you have to physically like force it into gear. The third to fourth though is really satisfying when you do that. When you go first to second, I'm like bogging because I'm trying to be nice to the car, but then it's just like you have to really pull straight down. The W58 is a 5-speed transmission overall, and no 6 gear, but back then 6 speeds weren't as common, but now we have like 8 speeds, so who knows what's next in this world. Pedal feel itself on the brakes is really soft. It's not very sensitive, so you have to pretty much go all the way down. That blow-off valve though. Oh yeah. Dude, third gear is awesome. It's super linear and you can just go. 7M feels good when it's done right. Get like the dramatic sensation of like a 2J or even a 1J, but it's very reminiscent of that. I always looked at the 7M as like the grandfather of the 1J because it just had the same kind of mentality, inline 6, and it just goes all the power is up top. Once you get up top, it really starts to pull, and it feels like a solid boosted car. It feels like the car could have come like this, honestly. I feel like it's no big deal. And you get a nice blow off valve, so that's a plus. Sounds good. Here it goes. Oh, that third to fourth. Okay, bigger brakes, please. Now that I've gone a little bit faster, I definitely think the brakes could use a little bit of work, but you just gotta be cautious. So one thing I want to talk about this boosted 7M is the gas mileage. And when you're in the city, it gets like under 10. And that's insane for me to think about, like a Toyota doing under 10 miles per gallon. But when you're on the highway cruising and with the 5-speed, it gets like 20, which is fine. But it shows how far technology has come with the inline 6s and everything else, that it makes that less of gas mileage, which is pretty shocking. But you know what? You're not buying a Supra for the gas mileage, so argument invalid. Oh, the gearbox is so tough. Third gear, let's go. Okay, yep, I need to brake more. I'm waiting a little too late to brake. Oh yeah, also this car has no ABS and pretty much no driver aid, so it's really analog, as you can tell. So the turbo in this is a 57mm, and that's why it spools up so darn quick. There's hardly any lag, so when you get in it, you're basically getting your reward instantly. And that's what I love about small turbos sometimes. And that's why a lot of big brands use such small turbos, because they realize for even daily commutes or stuff like that, say Fiesta ST, Mazda Speed 3, Focus RS, all those guys use really tiny turbos because of the torque. And this motor feels really torquey when it's not just a massive turbocharger on it. You feel like you can have a lot of fun, I'd say, a back road, because you can get into that instant boost and instant power. Love that sound. Oh yeah, while I'm sitting here waiting for Thomas the Train Engine in front of me, I would like to add that a ton of stuff in this car for a 1987 is electric. And like even the seat, see I'm scooting up and back, the windows are all electric. All that was usually an option in the 80s, especially with American cars. American cars cheaped out on you in the 80s, but like the Honda Prelude and those cars from the 80s all had electric windows, and that was a big deal at the time. I know that sounds like a minor thing now because every car has them, but it was a big deal back then. I remember as a little kid even, like I was like, that car has power windows, that's so cool. All right guys, I want to thank every single one of you for watching this quick little review video. I had a fantastic time driving this Mark III Supra, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great car. It's one of those cars that without the without the Mark III, there wouldn't have been the Mark IV. So you should probably thank the Mark III. Thank you all so much. Big thanks to Derek for letting me drive his car, and I'll see you guys next time. But take it easy. Have a fantastic day.